Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I really ought to have a catchphrase for me sitting on the settee. So how about this? Hi all, it's me again, sitting on the settee. You can identify this one, what this talk is all about, because I'm holding some papers in my hand. Right, now let me slow down and catch my breath. On the various chats on this settee, I've outlined a series of patents, applications, which, by sheer coincidence and manipulation of the title of the work, I've used my own initials. So we'll start with the RAM vortex combustor, which I talked about in a previous clip, the RAM vortex compressor, ditto, and the RAM vortex cycle engine, and of course we had LEAP, liquid energy applied power. Now this next talk has to do with something that is close to all our hearts, and that is basically the world's rainforests. Not because they're rainforests and they're full of orangutans and various other threatened species, the white-backed gorilla, if that's the right pronunciation, and a species of parrots, etc. No, because the rainforests are the whole lung of Mother Earth. And so as we chop them down, not only do we release the stored carbon in the air, which is the last thing we want to do, but we stop the fresh trees growing, and so consequently we lose our carbon sink. Now, this particular talk does one thing and one thing only. It tells you, the viewers, or the listeners, how it is possible to accelerate the regrowth of the world's rainforests. That is to say, in the rainforests where the hardwood trees are being cut down, and incidentally, for every hardwood tree cut down, many, many more will die, because it is the hardwood tree that supports the rainforest canopy. I apologise for the poetic license there, but the rainforest canopy keeps the moisture over the rainforest. So if you destroy a percentage of that canopy, not only do you destroy that canopy, but you destroy the periphery. It's like an ulcer. Once you chop down the hardwood trees, you are creating an ulcer in a rainforest, and this ulcer erodes and makes the ability for the rainforest to grow back almost impossible. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to tell you how it is possible to regrow the world's rainforests. I'm now going to let go of my notes and reach over and pick up this structure. Anybody in the UK or in Europe will think, oh, he's got hold of an artist's model of the charade, yes, that's a very good way of putting it, the shard in the centre of the City of London. Well, basically, I'm holding this because I want you to look upon it as a pyramid that is made of biodegradable material. But if we haven't got enough biodegradable material to make a very large pyramid, which basically is going to have a base which is equivalent to a large chunk of the arid land or dying fauna and flora where the hardwood trees have been cut down, we can make it out of 5 micron drawn glass fibres. Now, a 5 micron fibre is a rather overweight fibre that is used in the fibre optic cables which now carry all our communications, but I digress. What we do, if we say, and if you follow my finger, that these are bundles of 5 micron glass fibres, and so consequently they're wound with polyester tape to give them rigidity, we are now making rebar out of micron glass fibres. Now, if you look at the lattice work, you could say this is nothing more than reinforcing that is used in making reinforced concrete, and which is the basic of the core of all our now skyscrapers and very tall buildings. But what I want you to accept, that I haven't just got one mesh size, I've got 3 mesh sizes, and this time my meshes are biodegradable. Now, why am I building this monolithic structure in the middle of the rainforest? The answer is very simple. It is not in the framework of the pyramid. It is not in the various shall we say, sizes of the mesh of the wrapped round it. No, the secret is going to be in the cheesecloth or the hemp or whatever we choose to wrap round the entire structure. Now, I'm going to put it on my knee, and I want you to look at it and say to yourself, why has the man built a tent in the middle of the world's rainforests? In very simple terms, I discussed earlier on, I said that the part where the rainforest tree, the hardwood trees had been cut down, because basically at $30 an acre, she had to pay her way. So we washed our hands in blood, O Lord, cut down the trees we loved, O Lord, at $1,000 an acre, the dividends all took sway. So irregardless of whether people say the trees are coming from safe plantations and they're not destroying the world's rainforest to get their hardwood, there's always ways and means that the crooks will exploit loopholes in United States legislation. So what I'm saying is, let us build and replace the rainforest canopy. So you can see from this structure that it emulates a very tall tree, or a series of tall trees. So by wrapping them in hemp or any coarse weave fabric, we are going to allow the wind-blown seeds to hit the covering. Now remember, this covering is in the rainforest, and rainforests have microclimates, which means it's cold, damp, misty and hot all together. The ideal temperature regime for growing algae on a fabric, i.e. mould. So once the algae begins to form, the seeds will stick to the algae like flies to a flypaper, and as they stick, the algae themselves will act as the fertilizer to help those seeds nurture themselves. Now, because of the various weaves underneath the hemp, there's plenty of, shall we say, reinforcement for the young saplings, etc., to take root. Now, as they take root, they will also start to form soil. So what we're growing, in point of fact, are trees on the outside of the structure. Now, the interesting thing is that we talked about an algae, but why don't we call it a glutinous mess and stay with our statement about flypaper? So the insects are also going to stick to our flypaper. Now, if the insects stick to the flypaper, the birds will come along and feed off the insects. And as they feed off the insects, they will take in the seeds, which are also in the algae. And the result of this is that when they defecate, their defecation will fall through the holes in the fabric. So now we have lots of very, very rich material falling inside the base of our pyramid, turning the sterile ground into a rich, fertile growing ground for trees. Now, I say trees, what I mean is for the saplings. So instead of them growing on the outside, they're now going to grow in the mulch that we created inside our pyramid. But because our pyramid mimics the rainforest canopy, it's now got holes in it where the birds have chewed their way through the covering, be it hemp, cheesecloth or cotton, etc. And the light is now coming through the top of the pyramid. Yes, it is a complete recreation of the rainforest canopy. So the young saplings now inside the pyramid will try and grow as quickly as possible up to the light where they can start photosynthesis rapidly. Yes, in simple terms, this structure, which people will recognise as the Shard in London, but this structure, if recreated in the world's rainforest, will regrow the rainforest canopy within 10 years. What more can I say to you? But I'm now going to quote from an essay that I wrote for The Economist many years ago. Excuse me if I put this down. And this is the last part of the essay, and I read verbatim. Built by a modern-day Noah, instruction simple. Weave baskets out of fibres that within nature do abound, just 3 per block to shrink in size, to fit just one inside the other. The outer one to have the coarsest weave, to let the wind blow through. The innermost to have the finest weave, to catch the smallest seed. Each block, as light as a feather, are laid in a manner as to construct a pyramid. Now cover this vast monolithic structure with cotton cloth, as if to wrap a mummy from a pharaoh's tomb. The incubator for Mother's Nature is algae green, moistened by her every breath that brings wind-blown seed and the finest pollen. Insects in her breath will land in this glutinous mess. Roosting birds will nurture with droppings rich in nitrogen, as they feast upon the cotton cloth, holes that will appear, and all that once was in the holes will flutter to the ground in our upturned ark. The key word there is ark, a little bit of poetic license. No longer dark, this ark of ours will let the sun shine through, while saplings in this fertile mulch will race to reach the light. In just a few years, no longer tears, the rainforest is regrown. The moral of my story that you have just been told, the failure to properly nurture can see us chop down all the trees that leave us hot and never cold. There'll be no more shining white stuff to reflect the glaring sun. All we get is carbon for the damage that we have done. As a modern-day Noah, I need your help. Do we need nature? Yes, we do. In this essay, I've shown you all what to do. The rest of the essay will appear in one of my slideshows. I thank you very much indeed for listening. Goodbye.